All right, this segment is going to be getting your nocks ready to rock. So, if you're using lighted nocks, which I highly recommend, lighted nocks for me mean confirmation of impact, means recovery of arrow, lots of great things. A lot of you asking what kind of nocks I'm going with this year. Honestly, after all the testing, going back to nocturnals, the Unifit, I love these. They fit directly into a 5mm, which is important. I personally don't like to use bushings if I don't have to. I like a direct fit, so I just wanted to give you a quick little tutorial here on installing your lighted nocks. I personally take a lot of mine out for the year, put them in a bag. I'll number the bag what year they are so I know the batteries. And one of the things that's so important when you're installing a new lighted nock is honestly just getting some wax, some bowstring wax, just like this. And you can see how many times I've done it. I've like worn a hole in there. But all I do is I'll take the edge of my nock right like that, and I'll roll it about a quarter of a turn. Okay, and that way, once you get your factory nocks out, this will be able to install much easier like that. See how easy it went in, and now you can still have the ability to give it a little bit of a turn. If it's really loose, like if your tolerance of your arrow shafts is not great, and your nocks are really loose, one thing you could do is you could actually take dental floss and fold dental floss over the back of your nock, slide it in, it'll take up that tolerance, and then you can take a little knife and you can trim the two little edges like that. But installing that nock is super important, and also indexing them properly. So when you have your arrows mounted on your bow and your rest is in that up position, you really want to make sure, because tolerance, and honestly, this bow's great. Several of the bows on the market right now are fine. This is dangerously close. So if you had this turned like that right there, on a lot of bows, you could have impact right there. The other thing is, if this veins down on a lot of the newer style fall away rests, there isn't a lot of clearance underneath, which is really why I like the 4-fletch and why I like them in an X configuration, just like that. If you have that rest up and you and then lower the rest, so if you lower that rest down and then have your arrow just like this, to where you can kind of look to see that you've got clearance. Obviously, if you start to turn it, it looks like it might impact a portion of that rest. So getting those indexed exactly perfect is going to be your task for this homework. I'm going to tell you one other little thing you can do to take this a step further is, normally once I've mounted them on my arrows, I'll actually make a line on them just like that, because that way I know this orientation, this indexing is perfect. If you have your nock turned to where you're like, and one of your fletchings are down, if for some reason this turned, when I take this out of my quiver, I can look to see that the lines are not lining up. You can see those two lines that I did. So I would make sure, I like to put it on the top and on the side facing me so that I can take a look at those lines. You can do it with a Sharpie marker, but knowing that orientation and then also knowing your impact with your lighted nocks is going to be important. You can see I'm totally dialed in, sighted in with lighted nocks, but this is something that I did once I installed them and checked those marks. There's a couple things that are going to affect your accuracy with the lighted nock. These are common questions that I get from you guys is, do they impact the same? Anytime you change anything, you're going to change everything on your setup. Just remember that. There's two things that are going to affect how these perform, and it's two of the reasons why I chose to use this same nocturnal nock this year. One is going to be fit, how this thing fits the string, and freely turns like that is going to be critical to me, because that's the same fit that this standard knock has. So the fit is critical. The weight is definitely going to be a little bit heavier on the weight for a lighted knock. So your impact difference is usually going to be lower, and the further the distance, the more that can change. So what I would recommend, if you have a sight scale that's been working great for your bow, put your lighted nocks on, see where you're impacting at 20. The 20 is going to be pretty minimal, but then go to the furthest distance that you're comfortable and see how much yardage you have to add for that lighted knock, and you can put on a new scale to do so. For me, at 100, it's about 1.5 yards, which is a lot of drop, honestly, if you don't have a scale that matches that. So what I did was, on the scale I had with the non-lighted nocks, I had my 20s were both about bang on, and then I ended up having to put my old scale at about 101.5 in order to hit 0 at 100 yards. So then what I did was I went and removed this scale and I stuck it over the next scales in line, and I found the scale that the 20 and the 100 matched the 20 and the 101.5, and then that's what I put on here. It was one scale different, and I put that on there. Now I'm zeroed in at every distance, and from here on out for the season, if I'm sending an arrow, I'm going to be sending a lighted knock. And honestly, the newer ones are better every single year. The material gets better. These ones that I've tested this year, I've got about 36 arrows I've put lighted nocks on, and I've been shooting them, and they've been doing awesome. I like how that fit is, and I like the brightness. So get out there, get your lighted nocks installed, know what they do. Make sure you're not forcing them the arrow and compromising that knock. It makes them work better as well. The wax is a great trip. If they're loose, use the dental floss. Good luck. We'll see you in the next segment.